Hello and welcome to this video where I am trying to demystify Pacman, the package manager of Arch Linux. So if you read the Arch Wiki page on Pacman, you will find that this is a package manager which is a distinguishing feature of Arch Linux. And if you are reading the forums, you will sooner or later come by a comment that suggests that if there is one manual that you should read when you are using Arch Linux, that should be the manual for Pacman, the package manager, because it is basically the most important piece of software that you need to use on your system to maintain it and to keep it running. So you can see the manual for Pacman is quite long. It has different commands and a lot of different options that you can use with these commands, and this manual is quite verbose. It will tell you everything that you need to know, and of course you probably won't need all these things all the time. The most important things are the Q, R and S operations, the capital Q, capital R and capital S, which are for querying, removing or synchronizing packages. Of course, if you don't want to read everything, just want to have a quick look at what options are available for one of these operations, then you can type in pacman-s, for example, for operations with synchronization, and type in help. And if you are on a small screen or using large fonts, you just pipe it into less, which will allow you to scroll through it page by page. And here you can see the options for the sync operation. One of the most important things here, so you can just use this sync operation without adding any options, just typing in a package name or more package names or package group names, and that will just basically install the package on your system. It's called synchronization because your system does not have that package, and it will synchronize it with what's on the server. You get the newest version of that package, and the package is usually a software or a group of software or a group of softwares and other things. Or if you remember and watched my long Arch Linux installation video, for example, fonts can be installed through Pacman, so fonts can be in a package, and basically Pacman has the job of managing this for you. So you just type in pacman-capital S and the package name, and it will bring it from the server to your computer and install it for you. And of course, Arch is a rolling release, which means that you should always keep your system up to date, and you can read about it on the system maintenance page in the Arch Wiki if you want to know more about how to upgrade your system, for example. So this says that it is recommended to perform full system upgrades regularly via Pacman. So this is because Arch Linux, every software is always tested with the most fresh, the most new versions of other things. So if you have a problem because some older version of some software has some feud with some newer version of some other software, no one will know exactly what your system has. You always have to keep your system as up to date as possible before trying to troubleshoot. So keep that in mind. You have to keep your system up to date, and how you do that is through the sync operation with the Y and U options. So if you look at this help page, you will find that Y is basically refresh. It downloads the fresh package database from the server. So it will look up what's the database on your system and will update it with the database that's on the remote repositories. And then U is going to be the upgrade, which will perform the upgrade of the old packages to the new packages. So let's do a full system upgrade which you have to sudo, because modifying your system files always need super user privileges. So sudo pacman -S y and u. So you could just -S -y -u. Maybe you can do that, but you can just type everything this nicely, and I usually just remember it because it's a system-wide update, and I know that wide is written with a W, but the letter Y is said similarly to wide. So system-wide upgrade or system-wide update, I remember it. It's synchronize, refresh, and upgrade, basically. It will, of course, ask for your password sooner or later, and then synchronizing the package databases. So it goes online, downloads the package database from the server, and then it will check what are the packages that need updates. You can say yes to that, press enter, and it will bring your packages to your computer, and you can watch as everything gets updated. You can see that, for example, in this case we have like the Linux kernel also going to get an upgrade, and of course you can see the total download size, which is 86 megabytes in this case, and the installed size, so how big will everything be after installed on the system, and you will also see how much bigger your system gets after this upgrade, and this will be bigger than our current case by 1.27 megabytes. And of course, if you are installing new packages, this will do very similar thing. Basically, you type in pacman -S, and you can also type in the package name if you know the package name, and they will just download that. And if that package needs any other package as a dependency, so it depends on some other piece of software, for example, to work, then it will automatically download that, and Pacman will handle those things for you. And you can see that we have some failure downloading the Linux kernel, and we are going to another mirror and then trying to grab it from there, and you can see, for example, that this other mirror is much faster than the previous one. Same thing happened to me when I was installing the system. What I did is I just changed the mirror list, so I moved more servers up to the top of the list, so if there is a problem with the first two servers on the list, then the third one won't be on the other side of the globe. It's something that you should do. You should edit your mirror list accordingly. I talked about that in the installing Arch Linux video, because that will save you a lot of headaches. So if it is possible that the first mirror for some reason will lose connection to you, especially if you are doing like the system-wide update and you download a lot of things. Now you can see that it checked some keyring stuff, loading package files, checking for file conflicts, and upgrading a lot of things, updating dependencies, doing a lot of things. So it's basically, that's what Pacman does. You should theoretically read the output of Pacman every time. So look for warnings. For example, here we have two warnings. These are firmwares for modules that are not on our system, so we don't care about those firmwares. And our system-wide update has finished, so let's clear the screen. Now if I say system-wide update, you will see that everything is up to date and you don't need anything else. So if you want to install a package but you are not perfectly sure what you want, you don't need sudo for that. You can use pacman -ss. So if you go to pacman-s-help, and let's pipe it to less. So here you can see that the S for search, you can use a regular expression to search for packages on the remote repository. So let's do that. Pacman dash capital S lowercase s, and let's say Linux, and also let's say less. So you can see that there is Arch Linux keyring bridge utilities for configuring the Linux Ethernet bridge, etc., etc. So even if it's not in the package name but in the short package description, you can see what's in that. And if you want to be more specific, so for example, you want the Lts Linux Kernel. This is long-term support, so Linux has a lot of versions which has different features, different hardware support, for example, but all of them are updated for security things. So this LTS is an older version of Linux that does not have the features of the newer version. And so you can see that the first one here is the Linux-lts, its kernel and its modules, and it has other things that are named Linux-lts, like NVIDIA drivers for this LTS version, etc. And this is usually people encourage you to download this. So sudo pacman. Oh my god, what happened here? Okay, let's just sudo pacman -s, and I want Linux LTS installed on my system. So I type in the package name. I could press space and enter other packages to install. So this will get me the LTS kernel, and you have to know that this won't overwrite your Linux kernel, which is the newest and the greatest and the most fresh version that you have already on the system, because when the bootloader loads up your system, so when your system boots up, it will load the newest kernel. But if there is any problem, so if there is a kernel update that breaks the system for some reason, then, or you do some stupid things that won't work well with this new kernel, or you have hardware that has problems with the new kernel, but you have this LTS kernel installed on your system, when you are booting up, you can go to the boot menu. We installed Grep, if you remember, but you can have any kind of bootloader, and you can specify for the bootloader that, oh, okay, don't load my regular Linux kernel, let's just download, or let's just load this LTS version into our system for running. And then, oh, what's the problem with that? I have to change my first entry in my repository list, in my what is that, mirror list file. But anyway, so this is how installing software works. Oh, suddenly it sped up, so maybe I will wait until it finishes. I almost pressed Ctrl+C, so Ctrl+C can usually interrupt any process that is going on in your system. That's something you should know. I think it works in like the MS-DOS terminal too, so if you used MS-DOS like 20 years ago or 15 years ago, Ctrl+C worked there too. It works here too. So let's get this kernel, checking package integrity and installing the LTS and updating Linux LTS module dependencies. So this is basically how it works. Usually you can download any package using this this S command. You can search the repository with the dash capital S lowercase s combination. So this worked. And if you want to remove any package, you basically just say sudo pacman -r, let's say Linux-lts, you want to remove that. Oh, I did not say sudo, I said succo. Okay, it will ask if you really want to. I don't really want to. So with R, you usually just remove packages by name, but if you want, you have other options too. So you can remove unneeded packages, for example, and remove all packages that depend on a certain package. So there is a dependency that was installed with some software, and you say, okay, I don't trust this piece of software, and everything that uses this software should be removed. You can do that. Stuff like that. And of course, if you want to know what's on your system, you can use this query command. Oh, you don't need sudo, you need pacman. Pacman -Q. This will basically just list out all the things you installed. So let's say less, so we can scroll through it. We have Arch Linux Keyring, Argon, cracklib, Gawk, GCC, GMP, GNU, PG, and a lot of other things. You can go through this. You can grep. So grep, basically what grep does is if you enter a search term here, like let's say Linux, this will get the input of this command and get only the lines that contain the characters LINUX in succession here. So this way you can find specific things that are installed on your system. You can check the help here too. So for example, you can use the lowercase I to get package information. You can list the files that are owned by a package. So let's pacman -q Linux LTS, let's QI. I want the information on the package. We'll give you package name, package version, small description, short description, what depends on this, what dependencies it have, is that, and what is dependent on this package. You can use QL to list the files. Okay, this has a lot of files. This package has too many files. Okay, so I'll just hit, oh, I don't need to hit Ctrl+C, it already finished. So these are the options you have. These are the most important things with Pacman. Install packages, remove packages, look up packages that you have installed on your system, and do your system-wide update. So this was the gist of this video. This is what I wanted to talk about, and I talked about it a little longer than I expected to talk about it. But anyways, I hope that now you have some information on Pacman. You know what it does, or at least you know how to do the basic operations in it. You won't be afraid. I think it is a good idea if you are using Arch Linux, then you familiarize yourself with it before you get deeper into the waters, before you install too many packages. It's better if you know how it does the things that you need to do quite often. So I hope you enjoyed it and learned something with me, and I will probably see you in the next video. Bye bye!